I want to ask you a question. I want to ask you advice. I still try to avoid confrontation. I think you would have been very proud of me before the show because I don't know you guys really well. So when I got this text that was like, some of the patrons want to talk about, and just seeing the word allegations when it was like I cheated, like it makes my stomach fucking churn. And I'm like, oh, so these gossipy fucks pay you fucking $5 a fucking month, and they want to trudge up some bullshit from 8 years ago because that's how they fucking sustain themselves because they don't have a fucking life and they just want to like prey on other people's fucking faults so they don't have to realize that they hate their job and they're in a loveless marriage. And I just like lost my shit. All this like peace and loving, and then I called my manager and I was like, no, I should just do the show and be myself and win people over because that's all I can do. But there's a part of me, dude, and this is to Armin with the cartoon thing, where like I just got sad at first and I'm like, maybe I just shouldn't do it. And like, do you have moments like that? Like when you go, oh, I can't write this, fuck you. Or like I still don't tweet stuff that aggressively anymore. I mean, I guess I will. But not, I mean, not really. I feel like I've kind of like, because I'm living a life now and I get to make stuff and I know I'm helping people or whatever, I don't love rocking the boat, even though I still do. I do on stage and I will, but like on social media and stuff. But I have friends, man, that are just so fucking confident that they're like, I know I'm doing the right thing. Go fuck yourself. I'm an artist. Do you, when you do that stuff, are you like pissed you have to do it? Or do you have that kind of just confidence of like, fuck you guys, I'm doing it, I don't care?
Okay, so first of all, I do agree with both methods. I think like there's two different methods for different strategies for different goals, right? When it comes to changing people's opinions, like I don't know, Trumpists or wokey leftists or fundamentalist Muslims or average Muslims or Hindus or Christians, I always think like being friendly, being nice, having one-on-one conversations with them that shows that you could get along even if you have passionate disagreements with each other, that works the best, okay? That works the best, being friendly with them. But when we go out full-on aggressive and offensive, that is not necessarily for changing people's opinion about something. That is because we're pushing back against red lines that are being drawn against it. That has a different goal. That's not about like, oh, hey, Muslims, have you considered that Islam could be complete BS? That's a different thing. When people say, you can't draw this, you can't say this, that's the tactic that we use to be like, no, we're going to double, like whatever, every time you draw a red line around us, we're going to double down against this because if we don't, your red lines are going to turn into walls, okay? We're going to be as offensive as we possibly can be, and we're going to push back against it. So that's why we use that strategy. Just do I something like, I wish I didn't have to. It would be so much easier if we didn't have to do that. Like, but usually it doesn't get to me because I'm used to it. But this recently, because of for the past 15 years, like I had to move, I had to change address twice because of death threats, right? And I had to, I couldn't go see my mom when she got cancer, because if I did, I would have been hanged to death, So like but only recently I felt like maybe I should stop, but then I doubled down after, because recently I went after, I started blaspheming against Hinduism. And these people decided not to come after me. They decided to go after my family. And seeing members of my family, for example, get the backlash was first time I felt like maybe it's not worth it. But then I quickly got over that. And then we're like, you know what? This is what keeps me going. Like, there are people that are paying much, much higher prices than we are for the things that they're saying. There are secular activists right now in Bangladesh, in Saudi Arabia, in Iran, and even in Malaysia and Tunisia and Egypt. And these people are at the front lines of fighting for normalizing dissent, normalizing blasphemy, normalizing, fighting for freedom of expression. And they're paying with their lives and their safety and their security and their freedom. So I felt like, you know what, I'm not really in a position to complain just because people are making pornographic images of children in my family, and making sure it gets to them and they see it. That's tough and all, but it's not really something that could stop me. So that's my answer.
Yeah, I want to add one thing to that. Like a similar, the one time that this happened to me, and I remember pretty distinctly, is when there was a Bangladeshi secular blogger named Avijit Roy. He was actually from Atlanta. He was American, and he went to Dhaka in Bangladesh for a book fair. And over there, he was attacked by these fundamentalists, and he was hacked to death in the streets with just in the streets in front of people with machetes, right? So he was killed, and then we heard about it, and I had corresponded with him, I think, like 2 weeks before he died. At that point, I was talking to, Faisal Said al-Mutar, who's the Iraqi refugee activist, right, who runs Ideas Beyond Borders. And because we used to work together a lot, and we talked, we're like, is it really worth it? I mean, this is insane, because that's the first time I was like, this feels so personal, so close to home. And we also have other friends who are in jail in Saudi Arabia, in Pakistan, places like that. So and then we just thought, we're like, okay, if we do this, if we stop doing it, then his death is in vain. All these people in their prison, in prison, like they're in vain. I mean, there are political dissidents. There are actors, there's comedians, there's women's rights activists in Saudi Arabia who helped women get the right to drive in Saudi Arabia, but they are still in jail for fighting for that right, which is now legal. Like the whole thing is, so you can't stop this. It is the right thing to do always, right? Is when someone tells you that you can't do something, you have to push back. Like, because what Armin said, I'm going to use that a lot, is those red lines that they put around you, eventually they become walls if you don't erase them right there.
Well, and that's also why you actually have to believe in the things. Like, if you didn't truly believe in by the way, thank you guys for those stories. Now I know how to handle when I put out my next pro-rape album. But if you don't actually believe and have that conviction, like, in a weird way, even though I'm fighting less on Twitter and I may seem like less political, my beliefs are so much stronger. And when I do say something political, like, I have like my Instagram, I just make like comedy sketches. And when I started, a lot of them were just like jujitsu stuff. So I got like just a lot of fighters and stuff. And when I started posting about George Floyd, I lost a lot of them, like I said. And then the next day I doubled down, where I was just like, I did a quote unquote apology video to all the followers I lost and just fucking railed them. And it's weird, maybe because I do it less, but it was just because it was something I truly, truly cared about. Yeah, you get that feeling where you're like, fuck you guys, this is authentic. I know I'm in the right. I know I'm doing the right thing. And it does make it easier. But would I want to do that like all day, every day now? I'm like, no, I'd rather like hang out with the widows and their dogs.
Even if you're not in the right, you just, you did your best to try to, like, it's possible that we got it wrong. Maybe we're not in the right, but
Sure.
at least I know that the position I have is me honestly looking at everything and trying to doing my best to come up with a position that I think is correct without any worry about who I'm being loyal to or who is going to like pull their support away from me.
Yeah.
I don't know if this position that I have is true. I don't know. I just know that I did my best to get to what is true.
Yeah, and I mean, that's why,
like, because that's what you're doing is when you're trying to find what you think, there's a process that you go through, and what they're doing right now with all of the pushback and stuff, if you start listening to it, that process is what gets hijacked.
And when when you're just shouting people down, there's no, hey, let's figure this out together. You know what I mean? Like, I still there are still jokes that I'm like, ugh, like, I don't like that, or like this person will say this or whatever, but it's like, well, we can talk about it as artists instead of people who are trying to completely silence others, right? We can talk about these political issues as people who, hey, you're a Republican, I'm a liberal, we both care about our families and want our children to grow up in like a safe place. Cool. Let's talk about why your solutions would work and why my solutions would work, instead of just fucking screaming at each other. And yeah, you know what? That is the beautiful thing about comedy, is we talk about comedy getting canceled and stuff like that. But the real beautiful thing about comedy, as I saw all this week when I did shows in Arizona, and even when I said my lefty stuff, I had like a Palestine reference, which is the which is laughter when done properly. It can break the ice and kind of alleviate the tension of a contentious topic. And once that ice is broken, and once someone who disagrees with you has laughed at you, they don't look at you as the fucking enemy anymore. And now when they come up to you after the show, they go, hey man, I didn't fucking agree, but that was funny. And then you go, oh, what did you not agree on? And then you talk and you're like, we actually agree on like more than you think we agree.
That's the thing that comedy does. That's what storytelling does. That's what art does. Is that I feel like these forms of these art forms are so much more effective in getting people to disarm and sort of just be open to other points of view. Like when you cry at a movie or when you laugh at a comedian, even if they're saying something that you don't agree with, right? You have become more open to it, and you don't even have to agree with it later, but at least you'll understand.
I laugh harder sometimes. I mean, maybe that's just me being a comic, but I laugh harder sometimes when I disagree. When Burr will go into something that sounds like it's going to be so fucking sexist, and then when he makes it funny, like, oh my God, it's like, it's the greatest thing in the world. And I mean, the thing is, like, comedy comes from fucking trauma. Like, whenever I do interviews, and they're like, hey, were you the class, for people who don't know me, who don't know my tragic backstory, are like, hey, were you the class clown? And I'm like, no, the class clown beat the shit out of me and called me gay. Like, the reason that I became funny is because, like, my mom was an alcoholic, is that, like, my dad had fucking anger issues. They're better now, but, like, and that, like, when one of them, like, when the ambulance was pulling up to our house on, like, fucking Christmas or, like, some ridiculous situation that we've been in, me and my brothers were trying to make each other laugh, because once we could laugh, that would stop us from fucking crying, and then we could start to, like, it breaks the ice, and then we could start to battle plan. Like, what the fuck are we gonna do now? Like, my humor was straight up developed as a self-defense mechanism, not because, like, I wanted attention.